Just like the title says, it is time for me to reveal my list of the best comics that I read in 2023. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Before we jump into anything, as you notice, lighting is kind of and the background is a little bland, but that is because at the time this video comes out, I will be moving into my apartment in about 2 days. So Jay and Jen have been nice enough to let me stay in this spare room here at their new house until the apartment was ready. I'm forever grateful for that. So that is basically why it's very bare bones in here, but I wanted to get this video done. So without getting too sappy and too verbose over that, let's go ahead and jump into what we are actually here to talk about. These are my favorite books of 2023. I've got 10 of them for you. I'm just going to go 10 to 1, and we're just going to go right through this. So with that said, starting at number 10 is Mr. Easta from Scout Comics. This was written, drawn, colored, and lettered, all by Kit Wallace. You'll notice Kit Wallace a few times on this list. Just a super talented guy. This was the first time I got to read something that he wrote, which I thought was very, very cool. If you are a fan of the game High on Life, this is that kind of crazy. It's not similar in story, but the kind of craziness that is that video game is this book. It's got a very much a similar feel to that. I loved it. I had so much fun reading this. It was literally just, he's a bounty hunter, and he's trying to find out why people are trying to kill him. And it's awesome. He's got this cool weapon thing, like it's a parasite thing in his hand or his arm here that can create any weapon he can think of. And I had so much fun seeing the weapons, and not to mention, it has its own personality. So him and the thing in his hand with the back and forth, that banter is hilarious. It is a 4-issue series. It is done. So definitely be sure to jump on Scout Comics or any local LCS nearest you, especially your LCS. See if they have this book. If they do not, highly recommend that you order the entire run. So worth it. Coming in, number 9, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Stranger Things crossover. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Is there anything that TMNT has not crossed over well with? Because I've seen them with Stranger Things, Batman, Ghostbusters. I want to say they did Power Rangers is another one. Street Fighter was another run this year. They've never had a bad crossover, no matter who they pair TMNT up with. I don't know what it is. They just seem to work no matter what universe they're in. This was no different, and let me tell you, the reason why this was a lot of fun to read, other than the fact that it was just a really great story, it's exactly as you thought. Essentially, it's Baxter Stockman has found out what the other side is, and he's trying to use L from the series to get powers, and it's such a great run. But because Stranger Things takes place in the 80s, they drew the Turtles like your very, very OG Kevin Eastman Turtles. So they all look the same. It's all when they had the red bandanas and all the red stuff. So that's when you really couldn't tell them apart. But nonetheless, to me, that is actually one of the parts that made the book that much more cool visually. It wasn't your normal Turtles thing that you know where they all have the different colors. So I personally enjoyed that aspect of it. The art was phenomenal. Great story. Like I said again, Turtles just work with everything. This story was no exception. I can't remember if the run is done yet, but I've read at least 3 or 4 of the issues, and I've had a blast so far. Definitely recommend checking it out at your local LCS. Number 8. This was a book, when I learned that it was coming out, I was super excited, because I have been basically waiting over 20 years for a continuation of this storyline. And this book is the Star Trek, the Ben Sisko, what now became the Day of Blood crossover run that started in very, very late 2022, but has been going on throughout this entire year and is still happening. Basically, it started with Ben Sisko coming back after, at the end of Deep Space Nine. If you are a fan of the show, you'll remember he was summoned by the Prophets to their plane. So he was no longer on the normal plane that we all know here. He went with them to where they are in the wormhole. So, spoiler for anybody who maybe hasn't watched Deep Space Nine, but yeah, that was a big thing that they ended the entire series with in the very last episode. And waited for years to see if somebody would do something, a movie, any kind of crossover where, just something where they would bring him back. And finally, after 20 some odd years, we finally get this comic run. For me, as a fan of Star Trek, it has not been any kind of a letdown. The book basically starts and takes place about 3 years after the end of Deep Space Nine. So the universe that we all know, excuse me a second here, that was formed with all those 90s, with TNG, the Next Generation starting in the late 80s through the 90s when they added on Voyager and then Deep Space Nine into the early 2000s. That whole expansive universe is used in this book. You have characters from the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine. I want to say you'll see some from the original series. There are characters from all over the Star Trek universe in this, and for me as a fan, that was a lot of fun, especially just given the crew that they gave Sisko on his ship, the Theseus. You had Data, he got Worf, Dr. Crusher, and then the new characters that they have with some of the lower officers and ensigns. It was a really, really great cast that honestly I would love to see in live action. I think it would gel really well. But overall, this series has been amazing. He basically comes back because the Prophets are scared. There is somebody who has a weapon that is capable of killing God-level creatures, like the Prophets, the Q Continuum. The very first issue ends with somebody destroying the entire crystalline entity. If you remember Star Trek The Next Generation, those they look like giant snow crystals in space, and they basically ate planets. That's how they fed. But they destroyed all these things. So this whole series has led up to, we learned that like a clone of Emperor Kales is the one who had a ship built that has this basically weapon in it that can destroy, godlike beings. So that's what this whole series has been about. They've had spin-offs like Defiant, where Worf breaks off from Sisko, gets to Defiant and his own crew, and then they're trying to work back together. It's just been the most fun I've had with Star Trek in a long, long time. Just Star Trek in general has been killing it. If you haven't watched Strange New Worlds, check that out. Amazing series. And then, of course, Discovery. I mean, just Star Trek is clicking. Prodigy. Don't forget about Star Trek Prodigy. That one's a lot of fun as well. Okay, so I've rambled on about this one a little bit, but you can tell I was really excited. I'm a big Star Trek fan. Number 7. This was a book that was on my list last year for number 1. Issue 2 came out this year, and it just continued the crazy ride. I'm talking about Bigfoot Knows Karate Chapter 2. Now they are with Lesser Known Comics. It's the same creative team, Casey Torrance Allen and Dan Price writing, and then Dan on art and lettering. But they now are with Lesser Known Comics. So definitely be sure to head to Lesser Known Comics. Check it out there. You can order, I believe, both copies. They just finished up an independent side story called Hinagon on Kickstarter a little while back. I got in on that, so be sure to keep an eye on the channel for when they get that to us next year. But just if you can, check out my review. I did a mini review on it on a video a few months back. This book took us by surprise. When the first book came out, and I will say this till I'm blue in the face, Dan and Casey did a phenomenal job of telling you about the book, but they didn't. And what I mean by that is they were telling you everything exactly as it happened, but it was about the first half of the book, and then they didn't tell you about the huge twist. And when that twist happened, in the first issue, Jay and I literally just went, what the, and you can insert the word, and we did that. It felt like every other page until the end of the book. Issue 2 just kept on with that crazy storyline and has gotten even better. It amazes me the kind of stuff that I've been able to find on Kickstarter, which is where I learned about these gentlemen. This book is phenomenal. You need to check it out. Get in on number 1. Get number 2. Check out more of Lesser Known's actual catalog. And when they actually add Hinnagon, highly recommend that. They had Adam Casewell do art for that book and everything, and super talented guy. That book looks so good. It's definitely a different take on Bigfoot than what you get in the main series, so I can definitely tell you that. But if you just like the idea of Bigfoot knows karate, and he really does, and just batshit crazy, pardon the word, action and sci-fi stuff, and this is the book for you. It's just, kaiju and beasts everywhere. Yeah. All right. Number 6. You knew we were going to put a Bad Bug book on this list. I knew it because there were way too many good books that they came out with this year, but this was the one that definitely stood out when we finally got it. And then we're talking about Perrywinkle. This is written by Scott Wilkie, letters and design by Dave Lentz, art by Arturo Mesa. Let me tell you, this book is the beginning of what Jay has dubbed the Swookie Way Galaxy. Because universe, something verse, way overused. I agree with that. So this has been dubbed the Swookie Way Galaxy because he's going to do more stories using stuff like this for various holidays. Perrywinkle is about an elf who is left over after Santa gets killed by Krampus, and he just goes on a big revenge. It is a fantastic story. It's one of those. It has become it's an instant must-read Christmas classic. Have to read it every year. The one before that for me was Klaus, and then we got this. This is Scott Wilkie at his best. Scott Wilkie is a guy that is extremely talented and extremely versatile in his writing. So definitely check out this and any Bad Bug book, but any other books that he's done, like Dead End Moon. He's kind of the head creative on the Rosebud Manor series, and of course he's got another installment of this series coming up called Cupid. That's going to be amazing. It looks so good from the little bit that he's shown so far. So yeah, check it out. Check out Bad Bug Media. Find out why we love that company so much and everybody that's associated with it. Words are hard today. But yeah, so Perrywinkle, check it out. Alright, so now we're in the top 5. So, this is a series that has been pretty much on my favorite of the every year list for about the last 3 years, and they just keep going with it. I'm talking about Good Boy, but this year specifically Volume 3, which is Prodigal Son. I recently did a full reread of the entire Good Boy series, and then Volume 3, because I was a little behind, not going to lie. I hadn't read any of Volume 3, so I was like, let me just reread the first 2, get through Volume 3. Honestly, it felt like a breeze. I read through, I want to say it was 16 issues within one night. I never was bored. It was so much fun. This truly is an amazing series. The first volume essentially is like a reverse John Wick, where instead of the dog getting killed, it is the human gets killed. And in this universe, dogs and humans are kind of the same. Dogs can shoot guns, they can walk on, 2 legs, talk, etc., etc. So, Flint, who is our main character, just goes on a big killing spree, just like you see in John Wick. But that's Volume 1. Volumes 2 and 3 go in a whole new direction and expand upon this universe. And it's so much fun. Volume 3 specifically, you meet... Basically, you find out that he's got a girlfriend that he's had on and off over the years, but you meet his son. And his son is a lot like him. And then you meet several other characters that you'll meet. Someone that starts, that's going to start a new spin-off series from Good Boy called Bad Girl. So there's just a lot of awesomeness. Sorry about that, didn't mean to move the camera, but there's a lot of stuff still to come. I want to say there is a volume 4 coming, not to mention any spin-off series. Um, this is done by Four Colored Fiends. Garrett Gunn, Christina Blanche are the writers, Kit Wallace on art, and Dave Lentz on letters and design. Just this team for me is one of those that can just do no wrong. So if you like anything I've said about that comic so far, definitely check it out. If you're a John Wick fan, just check it out. And I think you will be pleasantly surprised at how this universe expands as you get into the later volumes. Alright, coming in at number 4. This was a series when it was announced from Dynamite. I was excited because I knew this had the potential to be really, really good. I'm talking about Darkwing Duck. And no lie, it has been a breath of fresh air. A lot of times, and I love my horror comics, I love my action comics, stuff like that, TMNT Strange Things, but it's a bit of a breath of fresh air to have something that's so lighthearted and fun that just makes you smile. And for someone like me who remembers and watched the original series, to bring back that part of my childhood, it taps into that part of me that's just still a kid, and I just have fun reading this and I smile. That's the biggest compliment that I can give this creative team. It is written by Amanda Dibert, who absolutely has this down to a T. You honestly could take these books and make them into TV episodes. Art is done by Carlo Luro, I hope I pronounced that correct, and letters by Jeff Eckleberry. So yeah, I cannot recommend this enough. This is an all ages book. So anybody who just wants to be nostalgic like me, that's an adult, read it. This is something that you can share with your family and your kids, and they will have a boatload of fun. Carlo nails the art. I mean, it's chef's kiss. Everything about this series, top tier. You have to check it out. I want to say they're on issue 10 at this point, maybe 11. And then they've also done some other stories. They just started a Negaduck. The Justice Ducks are coming, so they have spawned off a lot just because of how successful and awesome this series has been. So definitely check it out. Alright, getting into the top 3 here. Another book from Dynamite, 007 for King and Country. This is written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Giorgio Spalletta. Colors by Francesco Segala and Agnese Posa. If I got that wrong, please let me know. Letters again by Jeff Eckleberry. I tried really hard not to have the same publisher on here at least twice, but Dynamite had a good year, and these last two series in a row have just been amazing. 007 for King and Country is a continuation of the first run that basically mainly was from 2022 that Philip Kennedy Johnson did. And I will preface this by saying that I am not normally a huge 007 guy. I like some of the movies. I do like spy thrillers, but comics-wise, I haven't found one that truly just grabbed me until this entire run, starting with Volume 1 from last year. Philip just has it down. Like, he's got a knack for writing 007, and it works. Just take it for what it is. It is an amazing, twisty, turny spy thriller. You don't even have to be a fan of James Bond in general. If you just like spy thrillers, this is a series worth checking out. If you are a 007 fan, even more so for you to check out. This is just that good. I'm curious to see, I forget who's taking over and doing a run here soon, but it's another big name writer that I'm a fan of, and I'm curious to see where they take it. But I definitely have to, you cannot praise Philip enough for how amazing he did writing this character. I feel like he can almost do a movie script if you felt like it, or at least some kind of short like episodic TV show, but it's so good. You have to check this out. Essentially, it's Bond basically chasing after a company that has some kind of weird like tech, nanotech or something that can basically make super soldiers and stuff like that. And this entity has managed to take over most governments in the world. They have things, people integrated everywhere. It's just kind of one of those things, and that they're trying to unravel this entire thing to find out who's behind it, get to it, all while trying to stay alive because they've got basically people in MI6 coming after them. So yeah, it's non-stop action and twists and turns almost every issue, at least every other issue for sure. Action every issue, and then you get a weird twist. If not every issue, every other issue. So it has just been one of those, it's kept me on my toes in the best way. I'm glad I don't know what's happening in this one just for that reason. So yeah, definitely check it out. All right. So, number 2. This was early on my pick for best book of the year. This is Where Monsters Lie from Dark Horse. This was written by Kyle Starks, art by Peter Kowalski, colors by Vladimir Popov, and letters by Joshua Reed. This book was an instant hit with me and Jay, and really everybody that was on in stores this week on the experience, which is, I'm so grateful to have been a small part of that show for a few months while I was able to, because I got to read stuff like this. This is where I learned about 007 and even the Darkwing Duck series. So forever thankful to everybody on the experience. Kyle, producer Kyle, whom you've seen on several shows, was nice enough to invite me and let me do this. So thank you, Kyle. And back to the book. So this book is wild. Let me tell you. It is essentially about a community of serial killers that one of them tries to catch a group of kids to kill them, and one of them manages to escape. And the hilarity and the carnage that ensues from this is amazing. I want to say it was a 4-issue series. Every issue was utterly crazy. One of the characters, I cannot say his name just because it's that bad, but you'll notice him. He always wears he's got a teddy bear on his head. But he's, big bad serial killer, but all you see with him is that he is just concerned about keeping his yard the grass perfectly cut, his garden great, his flowers, everything absolutely perfect. And Jay said it right around about the second issue, is, wouldn't it be hilarious if something happens where somebody messes up his garden and he just goes nuts. Jay couldn't have been more right. Sorry again, I hit the camera. When that finally happened in the 4th issue, it was amazing. He took a chainsaw, and of course he did what you would think with that. But then he took a lawnmower over a guy. It was amazing. And the little old lady that is basically the head of this entire community, it was just insane. But they gave you a really, really awesome twist at the end of it. The police officer that is basically with the kid, or I think he's a police officer or an FBI agent. It's been a while since I've read it. But the reason why he was so into this case was one of the killers killed his entire family when he was young at a fair, and he met the old lady and everybody when they were trying to get him out of there, because that's how long this whole little serial killer thing has been around. And the twist that they give you is, the guy's like, I've molded myself into a weapon and this and that, and I know how to kill somebody in this many amount of ways. I'm a weapon. Well, little did he know is that that's what they were hoping would happen with him. And they leave you just kind of on that little bit of a cliffhanger, and it's like, oh, wow. Okay. So I hope they bring back some kind of continuation, because I had so much fun reading this book. Like I said, this for most of the year up until a month ago was my number 1. It is that good. You need to check it out. And because of this book, and if you have read it and you're a fan of it, I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't read this next book that I'm going to talk about, that for me was by far and away the number 1 best read of the year. Grandma Chainsaw, specifically issue number 2. If you liked Where Monsters Lie, read Grandma Chainsaw. This comes from our good friends that we know. Written by Alan Dunford and Will Radford. Art by Brian Bellondo. Colors by the late Jason Smith. May he rest in peace. And letters and design by Dave Lentz. This is another one of those creative teams where they could do absolutely no wrong. Subsequently, this, and I want to say issue 3, were the last books that Jason Smith ever actually worked on and colored. Like I said in an earlier video a month or so back, gonna miss Jason. Truly a good, genuine human being. Very kind of sarcastic sense of humor. Immensely talented artist. Period. So just take that. But this book, my God. This book made me laugh. This book made me go, holy crap. And this book genuinely had a character in it that freaked me out. And it was not Grandma Hazel. But they have a character that they introduced called the Doll Maker at the near about the end of, I want to say either issue 1 or in this issue. And the Doll Maker is truly, truly freaky. When you see the face and then you see the whole character in that reveal, oh my God. For me anyways, that was truly freaky. But there are several panels when you read this book that are truly stunning. There's one where they're coming down into the basement and it's the stairs and you see this kind of outline of Hazel's smile in her eyes. And that's another thing, is like, I want that as a poster. And that's kind of how they introduced the Doll Maker as well. It's a big silhouette of his face at first. Freaky. Amazing. But this story is so good. What you thought this was going to be is, and Will and Alan are great at doing this. What you think a story is going to be is that a little bit, and then they take it and go this way. And it's amazing. And I love it. And that's what this series is. Essentially what you're getting here is it's a little bit like Cabin in the Woods, somewhat. Not really. Some kids get lost in the middle of the woods and they find this old cabin owned by Hazel. But Hazel is not really just a grandma. Hazel is some kind of chainsaw wielding just demon. And at the end of the first book, you meet what is known as the Dead Squad and Fury Chan, who is utterly hilarious. Like, you want to hate this guy, but the one-liners are second to none with him. And the way he speaks, it's kind of like the thee and thou thing, and I can't get enough. Yeah, he's one of those, like, he's my favorite character that I love to hate. But yeah, and the second issue is after the two of the friends that are in the first group die, they're going to go back in the house with the Dead Squad, and they split into 2 groups. They're going to try to kill Hazel. And as you can imagine in this issue, that doesn't go so well. The kills are epic. When they do these panels where everybody gets killed, Brian and Jason, wow. They nailed it with the art. And then Dave doing what Dave does. Dave knows how to add sound effects and words, and he knows how to make it blend in with the art to where it's like, holy cow. And it's just, it's amazing when you see good art and good lettering and how it can make a story that much more enjoyable. Just some amazing pages in this book. Definitely, if you can, get your hands on this series. I want to say the finale of Grandma Chainsaw 4 is coming within the next couple of months to Kickstarter. Be sure, if you're interested in getting any of the other issues before then, if you haven't read the series at all, shoot us an email. We'll definitely be happy to get you in touch with Alan and Will. Maybe there's something that they can work out where they might have some extra copies and they can send some out to you. So just let us know if that sounds like something that you're really interested in. It's one of those, like, if I had the money to tell you, get this book, and if you don't like it, I'll pay for it, I would. That is how much I believe in this book. If I had the money, I would really put my money where my mouth is. So that is my 10 best comics of 2023. Let me know what you think. You know, did you agree? Did you find my list weird? Did you think it was awesome? Of course, what was on your list? I really would like to know some of the best comics that you've read. Maybe there's something I missed that I just haven't heard of, and you know, and that happens. I'm not gonna lie. My day job does not allow me to stay quite as connected to comics like Jay and Jenna are able to, and I do envy them for that, but I do love what I do at the same time. So there definitely are things that'll kind of get through the cracks. So let me know down in the comments some of your favorites. If you have an entire list, please be sure to post it in the comments. If you've got a video, share it with us. We'll be happy to share it, and you know, share it with the whole community, because that's what we're here for. We're all one big giant family who loves comics. Let's share and let's have fun, and let's just kind of make this a big thing. So yeah, before I keep on rambling, I'm going to get out of your hair. So with that said, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will catch everyone next time. Later.